So it's 4 p.m. You know what that means? It's time for another panel. We're going to be talking about getting humor into comics. And we brought Sam Johnson, who does Geek Girl, who we know has a humor bone. But then we brought Chuck, and I'm still trying to figure out why Chuck's here.
Because you suck at scheduling other people.
Oh. It does feel like every time I turn something on, Chuck is on with me. No.
Well, I mean, that only makes sense. Your comic book turned me on in the beginning, and then we just kept going.
It is a joke, though. Of course, Chuck has written Belial, which was honestly one of the best books last year. I love Belial. I even want to take a demon imp and somehow cross it over with my fetish character. And I'm serious about that. That's not a joke. We're going to find a way to make it happen in the Advocator. That's going to happen one of these days. But what we're going to do is round robin, so everyone introduce themselves. I am the Indie Devil with the Fetish Agenda. If you don't know who I am, you're not paying attention. Sam, tell them who you are.
So I'm Sam Johnson. I'm primarily known as the creator writer of Geek Girl, but though that has comedy elements in it, I also am the co-creator of the Almighties, which is an Avengers. Initially, at least, it was an Avengers parodying team that is pretty much a straight up comedy book.
And I'm Chuck Pino. I'm a writer-editor, and Belial is my little gift to comedy. And, of course, you can also watch my Chuck's Raw reviews, where I like to screw around and have a lot of fun with you.
So, I mean, I guess let's just throw it out in the simplest terms. How do you come across funny? Like, what do you guys, are you looking to put a joke in, or is it organic? Like, for you guys as writers, do you start out being like, I want to be funny in this one, or do you just organically go with it and see where it lands?
Do you want to lead this, Chuck?
I mean, I would say it depends on the project. Like, with Welcome to the Void, there was a little bit of humor because I love humor and that's what I do, but it didn't make sense to have a lot of it. So there's some little moments. But Belial, that's what that book is it's just funny after funny, and that's kind of what we're playing with and what we're trying to do. So really, it's about, humor and comedy in general is about timing. And so really, you have to find that timing in your own book. Should it be a really funny book, or should it have some moments, or should that be left out altogether?
What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, it does depend on the book. So, like with Geek Girl, there is humor in it. So it's not forced. It will come where it comes. Some characters are more comedic than others. Whereas the Almighties, this was a straight up, say, comedy book. I mean, the first issue of the Almighties, or the first one shot, was very much parodying big Marvel events. That was kind of the hook it hung itself on. So because I hadn't written a straight up comedy book before, I was initially going to go the route of like when you get sitcoms and like a team of writers. So I hooked up with Mike Gagnon to co-write it, and that was really cool because we did, like, as I say, it was an Avengers parodying thing. We brought our heroes together in like an Avengers style, and then I found we didn't need any more because we worked so well together on it. But certainly my approach to it was, if it's going to be gag, that's not something I'm traditionally used to writing. So I thought the way to go would be, to at least have a co-writer to sort of bump up the gag count, because that's how sitcoms do it, basically.
And when it comes to trying to write humor, do you find a problem with editors getting the joke? And this is going to be harder for Chuck, obviously, but he does use editors. I know that for a fact. Do you guys sometimes, because I've seen it where sometimes, and it's rare actually with my jokes, but I've had a couple where an editor would be like, well, I don't get it. And you have to explain the joke, and you almost feel like the joke didn't land because you have to explain it. But sometimes that missing art in the script kind of doesn't help it. So you guys seen that problem where during the edit process, someone questions whether the joke fits, and did you have to modify, change, or did you just go with it?
Well, because of it being the Almighty's been a co-written thing. The editor we worked with was kind of an asshole. He was me, so there was a lot of conflict there. But I got most things past him. It worked out. It worked out.
Chuck, did you ever have problems with that?
You know, if it's a comedy book, the person should have a good idea of comedy, and if they don't get the joke, then you know, beta readers don't hurt. You know, having a couple people to throw it by. Hey, did this land? You know, did this land? Maybe send it out to a couple people and just say, hey, these are the jokes we were a little worried about. Did they land for you? What did you think? That, you know, that's always a good idea. I know that on the other side of things, as an editor and as someone who, you know, like I trained in comedy, I was a part of a professional improv troupe and whatnot. So that is my background. And I recently went over a comedy book, and I told them, I said, hey, man, this one joke here does not land. Like, it was a funny book. It was great. But I was like, that joke doesn't land. And they're like, well, why not? And so I kind of had to explain it and go through it. And I'm like, but if you did it like this, then the joke lands. So I think it helps if your editor knows something about comedy, which is why, you know, so you need to be a little picky and choosy. Just because they're great with words and whatnot does not necessarily mean that they're the best editor for that book.
Now, speaking of people who might not be the best fit for a book that's comedy, there's nothing like comedy without a straight man. So we brought in Joel Rodriguez to be our straight man today.
Wait. Joel's straight?
Well, I mean, it's questionable sometimes.
Well, Joel, that's a hell of a fucking setup here.
I've been on the road with him, and he's just not into it. I'll tell you that. I tried. It wasn't like when I was on the road with Chuck and his wife. I got a chance there. I just got to keep going. He wants to be wined and dined, Chuck.
I get it. Who doesn't, man? And he's a good-looking dude. He deserves to be wined and dined. Like, I understand.
So now, really quickly, this is going to be a 90-minute show, so we have a little bit of time. I know also that because of the time constraints, Joel really hasn't gotten an ability to really get with everything that's going on, his Kickstarter out there. So we're going to switch gears real quick and do something. We're going to let him talk about his Kickstarter right now. So go ahead, Joe.
All right, thanks, Rob. I write a book called The Dust County Chronicles Nightfall, which is a horror book, perfect for comedy. The biggest thing about Dust County and why I actually think that it will help with this conversation is, as a horror writer, one of the biggest things that I need to focus on is breaking it up and adding a bit of levity. Because with horror, it's very easy to just keep beating people down, beat them down. But if you don't add levity, something to bring them back up, they're just going to read your book and be like, what am I doing with my life? Anyway, so with the Dust County Chronicles, it follows the story of Lori Evans, whose sister went missing in this area called Dust County, and Lori decides to go find her. The problem is there are plenty of things that aren't always as they seem in Dust County, and things go awry very quickly. So it's a very dark book, but a very emotional book. And as Rob mentioned, we're on Kickstarter right now. Today is the last day. It actually ends in 6 hours.
And here's the video for it. I finally got it to play. And I turned it down a little bit because we might as well space Mystery Theater this while Joel's here and go over what we think of the video.
Hello again. I'm Joel Rodriguez. I'm the writer.
Have you lost weight since then?
You know, the Dust County Chronicles. In the first
Batman.
we were introduced to the twisted towns within Dust County through a collection of 8 tales of terror. Short stories that caused us to question what we thought we knew about the stories of our past. Dust County.
When you said questioning, did you mean sexuality? I'm just asking because Chuck brought it up.
I mean, not in that regard, but Chuck will take it how he wants.
It's true for
He did.
the Kickstarter for the start of a brand new spin-off.
Now, I love the art.
Called the Dust County Chronicles.
The art's really cool.
It takes us back into the heart of Dust County and gives us a deeper look at
Roman, the artist, does a great job, and every time I think that he can't top it, and he knocks it out of the park.
We follow Lori, who is ignored.
Is that your office or your bedroom?
Dust County.
This is my office.
Lacey.
Okay.
Finding her sister.
Because this is my bedroom, and I have to say, it wakes up when I wake up in the morning and I see my own banner. I feel very egotistical.
As you should.
Right?
If you're a fan of
what's in the background there? What are all those things up above behind you, Joel?
All up there, those are pop figures. My wife has
they might be, yeah. Right.
Yeah, my wife has a huge collection of pop figures.
That's it. That's a big collection.
Dust County to life.
Hey man, I'd rather she collected that than a lot of other things.
Editor on creative consultant.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Let's just give a shout out. You had an amazing editor with this. Was it hard? Because me and him had conversations where he's lost me with the words he's used, and I'd be like, "Can you talk stupider? Because I'm stupid." Was it hard having someone who's so educated kind of come in and do horror? Because horror isn't always grammatically correct with the things they say.
Yeah. The biggest thing about working with Andrea is he brings a lot of different perspectives that I don't necessarily have when I go in and write. So like you're saying, he will point out things that I hadn't necessarily considered. And there have been a couple of minor points where we've butted heads on a certain aspect or anything, but that's the point of having an editor. They are there to challenge what you think you know about your story to make it better. And that's exactly how it works out with Andrea and I. And so far, we've got a great working relationship.
See, I always find that I have an editor to just tell me I'm right. Now, Chuck argues with me.
That explains a lot.
No, credit to Chuck.
Comedy!
Credit to Chuck. He does challenge me on a lot of things, so I completely agree with you on that. Like, I would tell you that there's definitely some things that Chuck has called me on, and I never saw it from his point of view. Kind of like my lettering, which you keep picking on me for.
We're being joined by a whole new team of talented variant cover artists, including Alex Cormack, Brian Silverbacks, and Stephanie Laval.
Oh, Cormac off of Sync. Man's got talent.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Damn, dude.
Yeah.
Yep.
And introduce even more people.
Do you get the phone with those pledges?
And for just $10,
they do not come with the phone. I tried, but shipping would be a nightmare.
we're thrilled to introduce some exciting new features.
There's Cormac's cover.
Variant cover upgrades. Each cover will have a number of available upgrades for you to choose from, including folio printing and even the.
Now, how many covers did you limit these to certain numbers? Like, talk to me about that. Does it say one of like 1,000? Because I know 1,000 is a pretty big number right now for most all covers. Are you?
Yeah, these ones are not going to be limited in terms of how we've done it previously, because with the previous two campaigns, we've actually had printed limited numbers on all of our variant covers. Now we have so many different upgrades and versions for each one that it's going to be more of a stated limitation. And once we print it, that's it. And we're not printing excessive amounts over what's ordered. Pretty much we're going to fulfill the Kickstarter and print a few extra for the convention circuit.
Okay, that makes sense. It makes sense. I got you.
Would you say these are going to be harder or easier to come by than toilet rolls?
I'm sorry, what was that, Sam?
Would you say these limited editions are going to be easier to get hold of than toilet rolls in the current environment?
They are probably going to be easier. I mean, if you run out of toilet paper, we've got some extra here. I mean, I don't like it, but give me your money and you can do whatever you want with it.
I like that. He's through it. As long as you back my project, I don't care what you do with the comic. Well, I've got some books that some people can use. I got this book, Right or Wrong, that anyone can use if they want. Every page is just open to toilet paper. There goes Chuck rolling his eyes at me.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch that.
That's not what he said.
Oh.
Yeah.
Speaking
As always, thank you.
Oh, there it is.
Speaking of, this is so hard to intro someone now. Speaking of someone who knows what to touch and what not to touch, Mark Dirty,
Nice.
yes, from a driving car. What could go wrong?
Like you're one to talk, Rob.
I know, right? I'm on video. All right, what's going on, Mark? How's the other side of the world doing today? I think Mark's there. Mark's smiling at us. He's like, "You're all idiots." I can't hear him, but we can add. We can't hear you, but we could talk for you if you want, Mark. Mark is just so good looking.
You probably have something plugged in, buddy.
He's just a good looking dude, man. He should have been a model instead of a comic book writer. We're like sexually harassing everyone on this program today. Mark,
And I feel a little hurt that I haven't been sexually harassed
I
yet.
did earlier. Remember you were on the road?
Oh, well, that's true. That's okay. I'll take that.
That's what you said that weekend. Mark is just like trying to talk to us. Mark,
What's going on, Mark?
yeah, we're not hearing you. Chuck ran away. I don't know. You just disappeared off the screen. All right, Mark, just start speaking, and eventually when we hear you, we'll tell you we can hear you. Because right now, it's just not going well. But we'll leave you up there because you're just so damn good looking, and we're going to look good as we finish watching Joel's story. Breaking news, Joel's lost weight since that video, Chuck said. So.
Yeah.
Look forward to walking with you as we return to Dusk County.
All right, I gotta admit, I don't like logos at an end of a video, but that one looks good. I can't hate on that one. That actually is pretty cool.
That is a
Thank
cool
you.
logo.
Like I gotta show love. The one thing that people did say is he have his fingers up like this. Is he trying to make fun of one of us about how small we are? He's got the two fingers there, Mark. Who's he making fun of right now?
I think he's crushing our heads.
I know. He's like this one. Back to that Canadian humor. So the only thing I've ever heard while watching your video was that you didn't talk a lot about the past books and I'm building the story, Joe, or you are too far. Most people were impressed by the video. Kudos. You do want to mention one thing. We can hear Mark now. Mark, you're on.
Okay.
There we go. We can hear Mark suddenly.
It's just wasn't really.
Okay. We're just going to mute that for him because he's talking to someone. Oops. I don't know. And I can't mute his mic. This is the one time. All right. So we're just going to. Oh, there. I think he got it. All right. So the one thing you didn't mention, Joel, is there's a crossover with you.
Yeah. So we have a crossover connecting cover with David Byrne, who is the writer of Stake. In the video, we mention an artist named Stephanie Lavaud, who's over in France, I believe. And she did a connecting cover featuring Draven, who's the big bad of Nightfall, and Angel and Jessamy, two of the main characters from Stake, who are vampire hunters. And as you can see on the screen, there is a battle commencing. And the cool part about this is the left side is the cover for Nightfall. The right side is the cover for Stake. You put them together, you have a connecting cover. It is available on both campaigns, Dusk County Chronicles Nightfall, as well as Stake. You can get both halves of it. However, if you back both campaigns, then you get the full 11 by 17 picture as a poster.
Oh, cool.
You're running out of time to do that. You have to back for $10, a minimum of $10 to each campaign. And my campaign is ending in a few hours. So once my campaign is done, that's it.
Now, you said it was David Byrne? I thought this was written by David Bryan. Like,
And that is why you can never find it on Google.
Mark, can you hear us now? Mark is sitting down. I think we're good. Mark, are we good? Can you hear us, Mark? I think it's funny that we can't get him on right now.
Yeah, that's the comedy, actually.
He's just, and that, look at that. He looks like he's mad at me. Like it was my fault he's not out here. He's judging me from afar. Mark will figure it out. I'm sure there's just a technical issue. He'll be on and he'll be giving us a funny bone. Yeah, but it is weird. I think he's back. Mark. All right, I'm just gonna go to this thing. We'll see about that in a second. So talk to me, guys. Is it okay to laugh right now? Mark, are you there? I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm talking.
There you go. All right, so tell us.
You seem like you've had a stroke. I don't know if that's the reception or if you actually have.
All right, that sounds.
Mark, are you okay?
Are you okay, Mark?
That's his accent.
I guess he's gone. the C-19 got Mark Durden. You saw.
Mark.
I hope he survives. If he doesn't, Joel will put him in a book and we'll remember him. But how can we be funny right now? Is that okay? Is it okay?
Yeah,
we have to do it.
Absolutely. Yep. It's like I'm still going in my day job, which we really don't need to be doing. The day job is about people that have been delayed on public transport, compensating for their delays, and we could be working from home. And the only thing that keeps it passable really is people making jokes, because it is ridiculous. But that's very specific to me. But yeah, in any kind of situation, humor's good.
So I got a joke for you guys, right? So a government official tells you to sneeze into your elbow, and then that same government official tells you to bump elbows with everyone else, and then they tell you they're trying to contain the virus. That's a funny joke to me. No.
No.
So we're allowed to laugh unless Rob tells the joke.
Oh,
That's the rule, Rob.
Yeah, I got the memo.
That's the rule.
this shade beat. We're gonna show the graphic.
Mark, you're back.
Was it a stroke? Are you okay?
Mark, I don't know what's going on with your reception, but it's
His
not.
reception is going to be perfect at the 89-minute mark.
Hang on,
That's the joke.
that's audible. That was audible.
I think Mark's just gonna put in a word every so often. It'll be a very powerful word.
Yeah, it'd be like Silent Bob.
He's like, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Silent Mark.
Silent Mark.
You know what? So I do have a story for sad times and finding the humor. Back in 2011, my grandmother passed away, and we're all in the room and we're around her, and it was the whole family. There was about 20 of us in there, and it was obviously incredibly sad. We're around my grandmother, and people were starting to filter out. People were starting to leave. And so my aunt and some of my cousins had left. And the rest of us there decided, why don't we have a moment of silence? So we all got real quiet. We all put our heads down. And my aunt walks in like a minute later. And she walks in, she trips. And everyone's looking at her. And then she's just like, I forgot my keys. And out of nowhere, I'm just like, awkward, and everybody starts fucking laughing. It's like, you know what? That's what we needed. Like, Grandma would have loved that.
Yeah.
So, in tough times, man, we gotta be able to laugh. We have to. It doesn't mean that you have to go super dark or anything like that, but finding a good movie, like the other day, I went through and I watched all the Police Academies. I needed a good laugh. I watched them all the way through. Every night I'd fall asleep to a new Police Academy movie. Well, 1983 new. Yeah, man, I found that kind of kept my spirits up a little bit. Knowing that I could have a laugh and give a laugh. This is the time to do it, man.
I agree with that. So let's talk about comedy writing. And Joel, you're an editor, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I have a question for you. Since you don't have a sense of humor, how do you edit comedy?
Rob, I have to have a sense of humor. I put up with you.
That's true.
Boom.
No, we did ask the reverse question, and of course, Chuck, you can comment on this. When it comes to humor, is there how do you deal with someone's sense of humor? Like, and you know the jokes aren't landing. How do you handle that as an editor? So I'm sure you've seen it.
Well, I think the biggest thing that we have to remember as editors is it's going about it in a way that we're not overtly trying to change the story, because with writers, myself as a writer included, I had to struggle with this the first time I worked with an editor. It was every time a suggestion came up, especially for something that I thought was funny, if a suggestion comes up, it kind of feels like a personal attack. Like, oh, you don't think I'm funny? So it's more so figuring out the best way to work and improve the joke while not making it seem like we're quote unquote criticizing their humor. If a joke isn't landing, then we're like, okay, I think Chuck was mentioning earlier, you say, okay, what if we do it like this? What if we offer some sort of suggestion to help push them in the right direction instead of just saying, no, this isn't funny, redo it?
Well, that's fair. That's fair. Chuck, I'm going to throw that to you too. Have you, as an editor, before I asked you as a writer and being edited, but as an editor, have you, because we've never had a problem with humor. Me and you just, I think we're kind of similar humors. You've never said anything about my humor in a book, editing it. I don't think once.
No. Well, I mean, let's be honest. There's not. I mean, you're gonna have a hard time really finding the humor in Barbara Unleashed, but Cat Dad and Supermom, it just everything was landing. So there was nothing really to have to go to where that was concerned. That book, when it hit, it hit. You know what I mean? Because we did go through a couple scripts. But as far as with other people, I mean, Joel's right. You gotta, for the most part, you want suggestions, but you know, really shouldn't have to. I don't think that you should, as an editor, have to kind of, I don't know, baby them. And you know, I'll be honest with you. That's kind of like an early editor thing where you're like, you know, I'm here for you and I want to support you. And eventually it's just like, no, maybe I need to, you know, you might need me to be a little harder on you to kind of show you. So, I mean, it doesn't mean you have to be like, that joke's trash, but you can be like, dude, I don't think it landed. Let's try some other things. I think the suggestion is always a good idea. Mm-hmm. Just like, hey, what about trying this? What about that? You know? And I mean, sometimes I remember writing a joke and I think actually it was in Essence House. And I knew it didn't land. Like, I knew it. But I knew that we needed something funnier there. It just wasn't there. And so Eric messaged me back and he goes, yeah, man, in on page 2, that paragraph, that joke did not hit. And I was like, yes. So we need to work on that. I'm very hard.
So now humor, there's a difference between sarcasm, like he was saying. Barbara Unleashed doesn't necessarily have humor in it at all. Barbara Unleashed has sarcasm. There are sarcastic moments. Do you guys, with sarcasm, and we've said this on Facebook, sarcasm sometimes doesn't land well because you don't see the facial expression, you don't hear a tone. Do you think sometimes sarcasm gets lost in a comic book because you can't always, the sarcasm's in a panel where you can't necessarily show the character being sarcastic because it might be part of a whole dialogue. And a lot of times people won't make just a panel for a sarcastic face. Do you think sometimes sarcasm's lost? Let's start with you, Sam, because there is sarcasm in your book. Do you feel sometimes it's hard to get away with sarcasm?
I think it's kind of on the characters. Like, so with Geek Girl, with Ruby and Summer being at the heart of it and their close friendship, they get each other, and therefore if they're being sarcastic, and also partly because of Carlos's, the artist's brilliant renditions of their facial expressions and body language, it will come across. But I think it's a lot to do with the dynamic of the characters. I think what was brilliant about Friends, with Mr. Bing, the arch sarcasm merchant, I think it works. That, like, there's good sarcasm and there's bad sarcasm. Bad sarcasm is I don't know you, nice shirt, that's shit. If you're joking with your friends, it's a different ball game, and that's where the fun relies. So I think it's a lot to do with the dynamic of the characters. So once your people are familiar with the characters, and again, I'm thinking of your friends, your Seinfeld, then when you get the dynamic, you get the relationship of the characters, then it's going to land.
What do you guys think? Joel, you want to jump in on that?
I think Sam hit it right on the head. It's based on how you set up the characters. If you have a very serious character that never cracks a joke, and then all of a sudden in one panel you're trying to make them extremely sarcastic, chances are that's going to get missed. But if from the very beginning you build up and that's your character, for example, with Chuck, we know Chuck's the one that's going to crack the jokes. It's going to happen. That's his character. So if you establish it early on within...
No pressure, Chuck.
Yeah, no pressure, but all the pressure. So
right, clown.
Well, I didn't want to say anything, but
no. I'll go get my wig. I need one now.
Yeah, where's the wig? I'm disappointed. Come on.
I know, right?
So it's all about establishing who your characters are, so that when you go to make the jokes or you go to have that sarcastic attitude and response, it's believable for the character.
Now, I will say this about Chuck. Chuck's definitely a 90s kid. He's got goth and emo all over his sarcasm in his books. Like, when his characters have sarcasm, it's dripping, and I love it. I love the drippingness of it, I think, because there's a lot to be said about the generation we grew up in, and Sam's with us in this generation. We kind of got sarcasm because we were nothing but sarcastic to our friends. I think the millennial in the group over there might not get sarcasm as well as the rest of us. But
wait, who are you talking about?
Honestly, when we were hanging out at MegaCon, Joel held up pretty well. So we can smack him around, but he actually did really well. What I will say though is that when you were first asking the question about sarcasm, if you're gonna put sarcasm in your script, then that sarcasm, like you were basically setting up, like sometimes you can't show it. No, if someone is going to utilize sarcasm in your script, it needs to be shown in the lettering, in the facial expression, in all of that stuff. If you're going to put sarcasm in there, but you're not going to show their face, it's going to be lost. So you might as well just drop that.
I agree with you, but it's not a comic standard. I've never heard anyone agree with me before. I had this argument before, and I was told that I was overthinking sarcasm. But in my book, the character, if I have a sarcastic thing to be said, that takes over the panel because her face has to land the joke. I don't care how serious she is or how sad she is. The sarcastic moment rules the moment of the panel for me. Or I make another panel. But how about you guys? Do you do that? Is it just me and Chuck? Because I've been told I'm wrong for this. Maybe I'm in, because we all write comedy. Do you guys make special panels for sarcasm? Like I do. And Chuck apparently does.
I make a special panel whenever there's an emotional scene, no matter what the emotion is. If it's supposed to be comedy, then I make a panel specifically to hit that emotional impact. Same with horror. If there's something that is supposed to shock you, then I focus on that. So yes, I do it for comedy, for sarcasm, for anything like that, but it's yes, I am. But I do it for every emotional impact because that is what really hits home.
Okay, Sam, do you make special panels?
It's not something I've been all that conscious of. I mean, as I say, with Geek Girl, Carlos Granda, he's a master of bringing out facial. It's no fun for an artist to nail down every nuance of facial expressions and body language that is to be there. He gets the characters, he brings it out. So I don't think this is a sarcastic panel, do this. He does it, it's not something I need to kind of spell out.
Right. I think actually Joel hit the nail on the head. It's an emotional panel because sarcasm in a lot of ways is kind of an emotion, and that emotion needs to be shown. So I think he totally. I have this one. There's a scene where Belial and Link Link is very much the comedy and the sarcasm, and Belial is very much a straight man. And they're having this conversation because they're about to go to war against war. And Belial, meanwhile, is all worried about death. And so Link walks up and he says, what are you doing? And we need to be worried about war. And Belial said, no, I don't care about war. I already know I already have a trick up my sleeve. I'm worried about death. And as they walk away, I've got this great little panel. You see Link's little sarcastic face, and he was like, you're going to need bigger sleeves. Jokes drop. We see his face. We see that he's got these short sleeves, like he has a sleeveless shirt on. So it's all very funny. That stuff is all like it needed to be planned, and that was written very specifically so that we saw all of that come out, and the artist was very good at getting that. And that's the other thing. You need an artist who can do comedy.
Absolutely.
It's very much about emotion. And so if your artist can't get emotionality or can't get comedy, maybe you need to find someone else, because some people are just great at, smackdowns and action and all that stuff. But that emotion, that facialism and whatnot, and even how they hold their body and everything, it's a lot more subtle. And sometimes that requires a different hand.
All right, I do want to touch on this, and you guys had talked about this off air, and those are all great points about sarcasm. And to continue with that, here's something that seems to be a little bit of a problem depending on it, and this will be good with Sam and Chuck because they have a lot more experience. A lot of the American audience might not get this as well. We're going to be talking about American humor versus British humor. And I grew up on Doctor Who, so I kind of early was indoctrinated to that type of sarcasm. So it's part of my humor palette, believe it or not. I love the dry British humor. I'm going to leave it up to you guys. What do you guys think about this? Because this is always a big one. Humor versus British, American humor versus British humor. Go for it. Let me know. What do you think?
Chuck, do you want to go?
I mean, here's the thing. I was grown up, I was raised in Canada. So I really kind of got the best of both of those worlds. I grew up with the BBC, but I also grew up with like Fox and all that kind of stuff. So like one night I might be watching Are You Being Served, or Faulty Towers, or Monty Python, and then the next night I might be watching The Simpsons, or any of that kind of stuff. Married with Children. So I've been there for all of it. They're very different though. And you need to understand that, like, British humor is very intelligent, very dry, also can be quite physical, like subtly, intelligently physical. Whereas American humor is a little more brash, and it's actually kind of very much like the societies. American humor is a lot more brash. It's a lot more in your face. There's a lot of dick jokes and whatnot, a lot of sort of genitalia jokes, whereas British humor, they'll do it, but it's almost in a tasteful way where you're like, shit, you just made fun of my junk, but you made me feel smart while doing it. So that's kind of that is the take between those two. And if you're going to attempt one of those, you better know it and keep going with it.
I would say I get what you're saying, but I think the best argument of there not being that much disparity between the American and the British sense of humor is The Office, because the Office was initially effectively a remake of the British series, but the British series only ran, I think, 14 episodes, and The Office America ran, and it is basically the same. It's not basically the same because it's massively expanded in the American one, but it is the same sensibility. It's the same sense of humor. Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant, the creators of The Office, were executive producers of it. They were involved in it. Ricky Gervais even pitches up as David Brent at some point. The big distinction I would make between the American Office and the British one is Dwight Schrute, but that's an improvement. So I think fundamentally, Tim and Jim, Tim is Jim in the British one, the same. So there's a perception of, Americans don't get sarcasm and it's a different sense of humor and not. But I think The Office is a good argument against that. Mark, what do you think?
No, you're making too much noise, Mark.
Joe,
Mark, shut up.
what do you think, Joe? Because you want to hear your opinion on this, because I've never heard you reference anything European as far as you've watched it.
Well, I've actually watched a lot of Doctor Who growing up. So although I don't watch as much European media, I do watch some. And like The Office, Doctor Who, all of that. However, for me, it's less about where the comedy came from and more about just doesn't make me laugh. And that was my biggest thing. So I never dove down into British humor, American humor, what's the differences. It was more so, like I said, I'm a horror writer, not so much a comedy writer. So it was just doesn't make me laugh. And if it does, I keep watching it.
So actually, I would have a question then for you, Joel, as someone, because the problem I would say for both Sam and I is that we were raised very much on both styles. We got a lot of that. So as someone who mostly was raised American and had to deal with that, when you watch British humor, do you get a different sense of it? Do you feel like they kind of have a different take on humor? It's still funny. I'm not saying it's not funny.
I mean, yeah, but up until this point, I pretty much just chalk that down to everyone has a different take on humor. So it doesn't necessarily matter if it's British, from the US, Australian, no matter what. No matter where you go, they're going to have different customs, different things that they find funny. So I just kind of chalk it up to that.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the classic, I think, I'm not sure if this was on Monty Python, but Hitler's, one of his deliveries to the masses was, "My dog has no nose. How does he smell? Terrible!" It's supposed to be shit. Just so that's clear.
We'll laugh at that one because it wasn't Rob.
I feel like it's off Alexi Sale. I don't think you're probably not au fait with Alexi Sale.
All right, so I think that personally, I like both. I'm like you guys. I kind of grew up with it, so there was never much of a difference for me. I think a lot of people get caught on the accents, and I grew up in New York City. There's so many different accents. Excuse me. By the time you're like 12 or 13, you've probably heard 50 different accents, and it no longer even registers with you that the people have accents at times, as long as you can understand it. So do you find that to be trouble? Even for you, Sam, do you find it hard to sometimes understand Americans at all with certain things we say? Because I know we have different slang. Like I say something here, it means something different in Britain.
No, not at all. I mean, I think it's so cross-pollinated now. It's like, everyone of my generation not grew up with, but like Friends was an integral part of their life. I can't see I can't think of any American show I've watched where it's like, wah.
So
hey, actually, I have a question about the Brits and Friends, actually, Sam. Do you guys agree that Ross's British wife was a bitch as well, or is that just us?
It's been a while since I watched it. I can't say I thought bitch at a time, but obviously we wanted Ross to get with Rachel. So I think there was a bit of a mechanism at work there where we weren't meant to particularly like her.
Okay, all right. That was a very diplomatic answer, by the way, my friend.
I'm standing for PM now.
Okay. I got to ask you guys, since you brought it up, Friends, the biggest question about the whole show, were they on a break?
Yeah.
Oh, Chuck's looking.
I have a wife, man.
Oh. Chuck doesn't get it. I barely watched it, and I get that joke. And
no, I know the joke. I'm afraid to answer it.
Oh. And Joel's like, "What's this show, Friends?" I didn't watch anything that made.
I know what Friends is, but I never watched it.
See,
You need to watch it. That's ridiculous.
you got plenty of time now. There's Netflix. Do all 50 episods, all 50 seasons of it.
Yeah.
Actually, they took it off of Netflix.
So
Did they really? That's how little I care. The Pyramid Knight says British humor is more of the gentleman's humor than the rash American humor. First off, I just got to say, ouch, that's fucking painful. Americans are not rash. We're just uncontrollable. Second, you've obviously never watched real British humor. There's some dirty shit in the British humor. Hugh Laurie, with some of the things that he would say, I can't think of the name of the show, but they had this sketch show, and I saw Hugh Laurie and a lot of other British actors. It's this. Maybe you'll know this one, Sam, where the guy has the complaint department, and you pay to get to complain with them. It was like
Monty Python.
Was it a series there? Mighty Python? Did they have a series?
Yeah, the Flying Circus.
Okay, that's what it was. Flying Circus. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. That's not. Okay. It's not Hugh Laurie.
No, but he was in a clip package with that, and I just happened to see the two different.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay.
Yeah. And I saw that one clip about the argument thing, and I thought that was the funniest thing I'd seen. It was like the British version of Who's on First, which I still think is classic. The Who's on First. Do you guys think that American humor is more rash or more in your face than British humor? Is that a thing?
I think it was. I think the thing is that a lot of that has changed as Sam said very eloquently earlier. There's been a serious cross pollination, and so you get that a lot less. But I think at one point it kind of felt that way.
So that brings up our next topic. Are you guys concerned about writing jokes that might not age well?
No.
Are you worried to reference in your book that, at one point, let's say 5 years ago, you were like, Cosby Show was one of the best shows I ever grew up with, and then suddenly something comes out about Cosby, and now
that's going to get. I mean, if it's been committed to print, then that's that. But if you're writing something that hasn't been published yet, then you change that.
They had this. I was watching The Simpsons, and they had this scene where they were referencing Cosby, and he was running up and he was hugging all the girls and stuff, and I was like, oh shit, this just did not age well at all.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, you can't predict that stuff. No. So no, I think you just gotta try to be funny now, and like, I mean, even I was talking about the Police Academy movies, they didn't age all that well. They're not near as funny now. A lot of it is very tame and kind of lame now, but you know what? Funny's funny, and you do what you can at the time.
I might be asking for a reason that there might be something I travel around with which might not age well in a few years. So I do wonder what might come back later for me. But do you guys have anything in your past that you've created that's even comedic that you kind of look back at even 10 years ago now? It's a total different world. Even the way that you might have written a character might be completely wrong now and looked at like you're a whatever, insert whatever they accuse you of here. Do you guys feel like there's any, even with your Geek Girl, do you think there's anyone out there who's going to twist something that was humor and it's changed now?
I did have this might be considered slightly politically incorrect now. In when I was basically writing an ongoing series that didn't become an ongoing series because it was called Rebecca Black. I don't know if we remember Rebecca Black, the pop artiste, but that kind of nixed calling anything Rebecca Black. I had a lot of these ideas that are quite out there and very much inspired by Doom Patrol, Grant Morrison's Out There Run. A lot of ideas I'm going to be bringing to Geek Girl, but this one didn't age well, which was there was a group called White Ops, so they're like Black Ops, but they're there for cleanups. So in the situation with Geek Girl is like she's moved into this superhero HQ. They need to get rid of the previous residents. So White Ops are brought in, and White Ops went in as a black and white minstrel's version of Destiny's Child. Now, I don't feel that would land particularly well now. I mean, they did it because they like to dress up, but I feel like black and white minstrels, maybe not.
What about you, Joe, with horror? Do you ever worry that you might have stepped into something that later might be, I guess, looked on differently?
I don't really worry about it, mainly just because no matter what we do, as time and as society progresses, views change, perspective changes. However, any media that's released is essentially a time capsule of that time. So there's Disney stuff that they don't want to talk about now because of the racial jokes and everything that they made back then. However, that was a symbol of the time then. You can't take stuff that was released 50, 60 years ago and can compare it to today's standards because the world is a much different place than it was 50, 60 years ago. So yeah. I don't worry about it because I write based on today's times. In the future, I have no idea what it's going to be like. So if I stress about it, I'm never going to write anything.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, so let's go over to the challenge of humor. Do you guys ever feel like trying to write something like humor is challenging in a way that is different than just writing an average story? Because once you get to humor, you don't know what the person reading it, how they're going to take it. Jokes can be taken a certain way and put into a different context. Is that ever something that you are concerned about? And has anyone ever challenged you to actually write something into your book that was off the wall funny to them or just impossible for them to consider you being able to make a story out of it, and you've been able to make a story out of it? And Chuck can kind of know where I'm going with that last one, as he knows that story, but I'm going to open that up to you guys.
Well, Chuck, do you want to speak to that?
You know, for me, I want my comedy to come organically. So, you know, if somebody has a fun idea or whatever, I might, you know, grab that and go, you know, if I'm really interested in it. But, you know, unless it excites me or entices me, you can't really like push me into it. It's just a natural thing for me. I'm not going to do something if I'm not excited to do it. But, yeah, I mean, that's really kind of it. I will say, though, that, like, if you think about comedians, you know, before they end up doing these big shows, they do the little shows. And they kind of work on those jokes and really kind of, like, break them down. And so over time, you really start to understand the mechanism of humor. And, you know, how one word or one quick turn of phrase could completely change a joke from meh to fucking hilarious. And so I would suggest, you know, dropping your jokes on people, beta readers. Show, like, if comedy is a big part of what you're doing and you're still feeling new to it, definitely show it off to people who not only have your sense of humor, but don't have your sense of humor. You know what I mean? Like, try to see how often you can get that joke to land.
I mean, I think you should go the beta reader route, regardless of whether you're writing comedy or not, because there are certain aspects of a story that may not fit, but we're so stuck in what we're doing that it's very easy to overlook it just because it's what we want to do. It especially works with comedy because you get, like Chuck was saying, you get access to people that think like you as well as people that don't. So you can pull from all these different sample groups.
Sam, do you have anything to add?
Well, was that ding? Did that mean you got the correct answer there?
Yes.
That ding was someone probably calling me an asshole.
I swear it wasn't me this time.
Preoccupied by the Pyramid Knights here. We're getting a lot of comments from the Pyramid Knights, which I don't think we've really addressed, have we?
You want to do
in the live comments section? The Pyramid Knights has given us a lot of comments.
Yeah.
The Three Stooges humor, for example, may be considered racist in today's society. If you're familiar with most of their shorts, as a white person, I have no comment. Chuck, how do you feel about that?
What? As the black guy? Because I got to tell you, I don't play a very good black guy.
Well, you're Canadian. I didn't think that counted. I thought Canadian was the other white. You know,
we're the other white meat. Yeah, exactly. I mean, some of it does. I mean, I think they had like some blackface and stuff like that. So, yeah, certainly. But that doesn't mean you can't take some of their humor. You know what I mean? Certainly some of the stuff they did do was hilarious. It doesn't make what they did entirely disgusting or wrong. It's just you have to look at it from its time period. It's the same as like, libraries that won't have Mark Twain stories in there because he says the N-word. And it's like, I get it, but it was a different time. That's what it was from. And so, chill out a little bit. But that doesn't mean that I can start dropping the N-word in my jokes because honestly, I'm not even walking near that. Not considering it.
So what do you guys think about that? Do you think that if something ages poorly, do we throw it away or do we keep it and respect the fact that at one point it was relevant and it gives us a time capsule?
If we throw away history that we don't like, then we'll forget those lessons.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you've got something that is politically incorrect, it depends. It'll hit a chord with you. Either you're like, yeah, but it is funny, or just not. That wasn't. Well, it's not acceptable now. So I think there's different. I think the way it's intended, like you were talking about Mark Twain, I don't. Given what I know about his work and him as a person, I don't think there was any malice intent there. I think it was, as you say, of its time. So ultimately, it's what the intentions are.
Yeah.
How we read it, I think as a human being, you will probably get how it was meant if you engage your brain rather than being knee-jerk.
Well, and I think we can also step back and like say you've written something and then 10 years from now it's just wrong. I think you can step up and say, so guys, just keep in mind that I wrote this before that terrible thing happened. I get that maybe it's not appropriate anymore. I don't think I'm going to stop selling it, but I'm definitely not going to push it. And just understand that going in that, it's a product of its time, just like everything else on the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And Joel, as someone who's a millennial who thinks that everything was made 10 years ago, do you guys ever consider that the things that have been made 30 to 60 years ago was a different time frame and really Jesus didn't play with dinosaurs? You're representing the millennials tonight, so please tell us.
Now, what in our interactions together makes you think that I am qualified to speak for the millennials?
You're the closest one on the panel, so
yeah, that's
compared to Rob, you're a millennial.
Age is a number, dude. I don't talk to anyone. I don't talk to people my age. I mean, that's just how this works.
Oh, so he's against. So I'm not against millennials, but apparently the millennials against millennials. I don't know, man. That's just
that makes sense.
That's weird, man. That's weird.
I'm not against millennials. I am against.
Let's see. Oh, here we go.
I'm against jumping to conclusions. So whether it's based on a time frame, an age group, a political belief, anything like that, I'm against jumping to conclusions. Get the information and base it on its time. Like we've been talking about with humor and the when it is. Let's see. Joel is against facts. Actually, I'm the exact opposite. I need facts. So yeah, Rob, give me facts next time you want to challenge me.
Yeah, Rob.
Sorry. Chuck wasn't there to edit me, so it slipped through the cracks.
What happens?
It slipped through the cracks. All right, we're going to move on to the next thing. But before we do, I want to talk to Chuck about this actual story because he was there. with
Oh yeah.
all right, so the children's humor. So we've been doing this for a long time. Chuck's been on a lot of videos with me, and back in the day, you were actually in the chat room on that one, so we didn't even have StreamYard yet, and we hadn't gone to Google Hangouts because this was early in my career. I honestly, it was probably just I didn't know how to do it, to be honest. And I was doing one of the first Facebook Lives because there was a time for you millennials watching where Facebook Live wasn't actually a big thing. And I'm picking on millennials, but they're actually old now. They're like 30. I should be picking on the Gen Zers who eat Tide Pods. But we'll skip over that for the point of the story. So I'm on there, and I'm doing the thing. You guys have seen me on panels. Sam hasn't. But on a panel about how to create comic books, I always say writer's block doesn't exist. And I was saying this on this live stream, and it was almost like me, like Chuck had said, it was me practicing to do a panel actually at that point. Because I hadn't done my panel yet, but I was throwing out these ideas, and I was having an open mic, so I wanted to see if I was ready to answer these questions live. And someone said, oh, there is such a thing. You can't just write any story. I was like, sure I can, without a problem. It would not bother me to write anything. Go ahead, throw anything at me. So someone first yells out, write a story about an elephant. I'm like, okay, what's so hard about writing a story about an elephant? You ever heard of Dumbo? You know, like, come on, this isn't going to be hard. And they're like, oh, make the elephant fart. So now I don't know if you guys know this, but I did, with Chuck, create an award-winning comic book called Cat Dad and Supermom, where the main character, who is the bad guy or the baddie in the episode, is a farting elephant. I just wanted to put it out there. And my humor lands. It lands like a jet at JFK. Very well, and doesn't skid off the runway. Now, if we're talking about San Francisco, maybe it skids off. I don't know. They are a kind of a scary airport if you ever read about it. San Francisco apparently has a lot of skidding planes. I don't know why I find it funny. I just do. No one ever got hurt, but because of the fog, they actually have some problems coming down sometimes, and their planes come in sideways because of, like, winds. It's kind of interesting to watch. Watch the video. It's sideways as the plane comes in. It doesn't look physically possible. And I
feel like you've lost your metaphor here.
What's that?
I feel like you've lost your metaphor, and we are literally talking about planes skidding off the runway.
We are now.
We are. That's ADHD. That's just where I go. The point is that you can make a story about anything if you pay enough attention, and you can be there's humor in anything in life. So if you actually stop being so serious and you actually look at it, well, how could this be funny? I think that's the way to move forward, which gives us the most important thing, and I really want to bring this up. Who are your comedic influences? Who inspired you? Because for me, I'll say right now, George Carlin, all the way. George Carlin will make a joke about anything. He didn't know how to say sorry about it. It was always just about the freedom to tell the joke. And that's why a lot of times I'll tell jokes that are somewhat inappropriate without being racist, but I don't care about the limits. What about you guys?
I think one big one for me is Robin Williams. Because one thing about that guy is he knew how to work an audience, and he knew what jokes to tell to specific audiences. I mean, a lot of people know him as the Genie, Mrs. Doubtfire, all of these family-friendly things. And then you go to his stand-up, and it's completely different.
Yeah.
So he's really good at targeting his presentation towards the audience that he's working with.
Chuck, you gotta have a list of them.
I mean, it's so many, but I'm trying to think about. So for me, a big one growing up was Chris Farley.
Yeah.
John Candy. John Candy had this. He had such a great sense of humor, but he was also so charming. Even when he was a dick, you loved him so much. And I would say more recently, I've really gotten on the bus of John Mulaney, who I find can tell a story better than anyone. And if you have not listened to John Mulaney, he is honestly the voice of this current generation in so many ways. His stories are absolutely amazing. But I mean, so many movies and TV shows and specific stand-up comedians and Saturday Night Live. I mean, wow, it's just a plethora. And as someone who consumed comedy so much, it's all over the place.
And Sam, who inspired you with your sense of humor growing up?
So not so much growing up, but just to bring it back to comics, Peter David, I think his run on X Factor was superb, and that's an influence. And even if it wasn't necessarily always laugh out loud funny, I can't really think of too many writers that, unless, which he has done on occasion, he's worked against type deliberately. But if you're getting a Peter David book, there's going to be humour there. And, it's going to be smart and, he's going to deliver.
All right. So now that we have our influences and we know we want to do something, I want to talk about something we don't talk about a lot. And that's the importance of the art of humor. And I don't mean the actual humor aspect. I mean the drawing of the art. We talked a little bit about it before, about how you have to isolate the sarcasm in that moment. But also, how do you make something come off funny when someone slips on a banana peel? The importance of landing those roles. Kind of like when we had the Chuck the Train, that was a fart train that was drawn as actually the letters words, or the letters became the word words, to prove that words can always hurt you. There's a comedic moment. How do you guys deal with that? And even in horror, for Joel, since he's a horror writer, how do you make the horrific moments really land? Like with the artist, do you guys really pressure a certain movement, a body angle? Do you get involved in that? Because I know I'm very involved with the aspects of it. Like, I'm a director. Even though I'm not an artist, I have an artistic view of what I want in a scene. And if it's not landing, I'll take pictures of myself or show reference pictures. Do you guys go that deep in your humorous moments? Anyone can go first.
Joe?
Well, from the horror aspect,
No pressure.
no pressure at all. I tend to work a lot in camera angles, especially when it comes to specific scenes that I want to have a specific emotional impact. Like I said, I do this for all emotion key moments, not just horror scenes or the grotesque or super scary stuff. It's anything that I want to have an emotional impact. I tend to focus more heavily on camera angles, panels leading into it, and setting up the scene is almost as important as the scene itself. So for the Dust County Chronicles, when I'm working with Roman, we will actually sit down and talk about how we're going to work out these couple of panels. And I tell him, if you have an idea that you think will make this work better, then I'd love to hear it. In the first issue of the Dust County Chronicles, one of the biggest scenes is there's a superhero story where the superhero is revealed to have a prisoner, and what he's doing to that prisoner was actually Roman's idea. I had something drafted out, and I said, here you go, let me know what you think. And I told him right off the bat, if you have a better idea, let's hear it. And he came up with the contraption that the superhero is using. And it's working that sort of collaboration that makes it key when you're trying to get a specific response from a reader.
So, Chuck, walk us through it. What have you had with Belial? Because I know Belial, there were some scenes that definitely play into the art, like the cover with the holding of the beer, those types of moments. Walk us through. How much work was that to get the angles right?
Honestly, not. Greg Warrenchak is brilliant. Honestly, he just got it. So, I mean, early on, I was a little worried, and I tried to give a lot of explanations, but I remembered right away him saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to work on this. This is so funny. I'm so excited to make this land." And he really, really he got it. So I really didn't have to work too hard with him because he really got the physicality of it. And a lot of those jokes, if you cover up the balloons, it still plays out even almost without the words, because he really, really understood the physicality of it. So again, that goes back to me saying, your artist really matters so much, because there's only so much direction that you should have to give someone. It would be like trying to direct someone who's not funny to do a comedy. And then, like, so the jokes are funny, but they're not landing well. Like, say, Suddenly Susan was, like, it had jokes, but she wasn't a funny woman. And that's why it didn't last long. But he just got it. And so it really, your artist matters so much. And that's why if you can find someone who's worked on comedy before and they can pull it off, that's a huge start.
And Sam, your book relies both on humor and seriousness and trades off seamlessly. So how much are you involved in that art, or have you just gotten to the point where you trust the artist to go with the script and know what to do?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned previously, it's like it's no fun for me as the writer or the artist to have everything nailed down, and this person needs to have a slight. I mean, actually, this is something when I did a course in creative writing for film and TV. This was one of the things that got pulled up back in the day. I was young and naive then about making it, like they slightly smile and really nailing down the subtlety of each expression. It's no fun. So you trust the artist. If you've got the right artist, they'll bring it out. They will bring out more than you could put in the script. And as I say, it's more fun for them to do that of their own accord, rather than you be like with every single panel, this is the expression we want. It's, as a collaborative experience, you want the artist to be able to bring their game to it. And that's my experience with every creative team that's been successful.
All right. And we're going to move on to our next topic, which is favorite comedic moments in comics. We'll start with Sam. Sam had mentioned the run on X-Force, but is there a particular moment that just jumps out at you right away? Like, that was the funniest thing I've seen in a comic book.
Yeah, absolutely. Deadpool. I think it's issue 11 of the original ongoing series, where Deadpool goes back in time to Peter Parker, school days Spider-Man. And he's got Blind Al standing in for Aunt May, and Mary Jane pitches up doing a like 60s I'm so cool hippie dance thing, and this is not going to land without seeing the visuals of it. But I mean, that whole, I won't even do it because I know it won't land. But the issue, as I believe it, if I recall correctly, it's issue 11 of the original Deadpool ongoing, where Deadpool goes back in time to, as I say, original sort of Stan Lee and Ditko era Spidey, and puts himself in that and just rips the piss out of the whole thing, like Harry or Norman, whichever one is being referenced at the time, with their Brillo pad hair. So that's the funniest comic I've ever read.
All right, we're going to be joined by someone new. Look who it is. We're one of the
comedy. Yeah, there's my girl.
Shit.
Yeah, and this was what I got today, despite the fucking SARS 2 COVID motherfucker 19. I got this today, so I got to go quality QC them. I got another shipment coming, but it seems to me that Amazon fucking delivered all the She Sucks books. They also delivered the Hellfire Damnation, and then we got the She Sucks. I think that's what I said. And then I ordered more of the other books of Sepulchre and Personal Monsters, but that should be coming Monday, it looks like. But I got it. Let's see her ass right there. So
nice ass.
Yeah, right. So yeah, thank you. And I guess what makes this the charming thing is just I write it as disgusting as possible with as much truth in it. Because when I had Chuck, I gave the pleasure of Chuck reviewing it and putting it for his reviews. He was just like, This is fucked up. This is so fucked up. Like, he was just like, he couldn't, I don't know. Did I give you a minor aneurysm when that happened or something? Or were you just,
I mean, I'm an overweight gentleman, so that's already an issue, but it helped. It definitely helped.
yeah, you were just like, you just couldn't believe it, how fucked up it was. Like, you were just like, even the drinks are not just bad. It's like he really crafted them to be bad. It wasn't like he threw a bunch of Captain Morgan and, you know, Don Patron in there and said, oh, this is terrible. I mean, it was terrible, but it's like he actually went out of his way with like nice booze to make it taste a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, but he just couldn't get over it. But yeah, it's like, there it is. I need to look through all of them and quality control them and let Amazon know if there's any defective copies. So that's a fun bit. Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited. And I've also got the stickers too. And I'm just going to do a shameless plug. You can buy any of these physical copies from my website at horrorstudios.com at shop. So yeah, like this is the holographic sticker that Kriya Angry did. So I'm going to kind of show my wares. And this is called Match Made in Hell. And she just did it. Like, I just said, oh yeah, hey, how's it going? She's like, can I go do something, a demon bitch? I'm like, okay. And
yeah, right.
she just, she gave me the statue of Demon Bitch, not Kriya Angry, but this one right here. She actually gave me the statue. So you ever meet me at cons, I'll have that fucking statue. She just gave it to me. It's awesome. Like, she's so sweet. So I need to give her some of these too. But yeah, so I got that, and I have Shitbird here. People really love the fucking names that I give these motherfucking things. Like these are all from Sticker App, and what's kind of nice about Demon Bitch 2020, vote for me. There we go. So it's like this. That Shitbird with my ass, my ass, my ass.
And that was like a new character that just came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, someone pissed me off, so I made some.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Kristen.
Sure.
This is going to be an off-the-cuff one. Do you consider yourself an underground comic writer, considering how much you push?
See, the thing is, I'm not primarily a writer. I'm an artist initially. And again, I'm not dogging writers. It's just that I don't write in the traditional way writers do. It's kind of, I sort of do storyboard. But I mean, I am able to type on a computer. I'm not a total, like, illiterate troglodyte. But I just start writing stuff, what comes to my mind, and it's a very stream of consciousness. It's very odd. It's like I just do this whole stream of consciousness thing. Like, I'll just write, hey, Joel, by the way. Hey, Sam, how's it going? Hey, Chuck. But it's just like I'll write this whole thing. Like, I'll just start thinking, and it's just so demented. Like, yeah, she went over here and she wanted to peddle her new multi-level marketing drink. So the new multi-level marketing drink is called MT. So we're going to go and make, like, get some 50-gallon, like, you know, garbage bags and shit, and then just go ahead and just, like, put that there and try to market it. And it's just like this demented stream of consciousness, which really shouldn't be funny, but yet consciousness is like, yeah, that's shit that runs through my head all the time. Maybe not in that context, but just like how it goes about that. And then all the other writers are going like, and other artists are like, well, I sit here and I meticulously craft anything. So I don't. Apparently, if I throw a bunch of shit on a canvas, people love it. So, because I mean, I used to draw, like, I used to agonize. I want to draw pretty and stuff. And I can actually draw nice things. Like, you've seen my other artwork that I occasionally post up. It's actually cool and it's beautiful, but it never really got me anywhere, which was weird. And I love beautiful art. It's not that. It's just that sometimes I get into this mode where it's just like, wait, let me just do Demented. And it's just like, people really love that. Like, they'll just read Demon Bitch. Like, I just grab stuff like off of real life. Like, there's this one person that I know to be an immensely stupid chick, right? And she'll write the most stupid narcissistic shit ever about herself while trying to be one of the woke people or like one of the spiritually advanced people, like love and light and everything. And I don't trash that community. I'm just saying in general, those guys, you know, like religious people, like certain types of religious people are just like, you know, go away. You're get off my cat's in the box. She went in there. She's like, oh, I'm just going to sit here. Okay, stop pawing at the box. But anyway, so what ended up happening was so what she said when this whole crisis was starting with the SARS-2 COVID-19, I think that's kind of the new term now, because they actually did find it related to the SARS, what is it? The SARS virus.
Yeah.
She said, can someone please take DMT and talk to the coronavirus? Let that sink in. because
Yeah.
it was just like, what? And she said, and it just said that, like, I had to read it 5 times. It wasn't like I'm illiterate, but I looked at that. I was like, oh yeah, like that. But like that. It just made me boggled. Like,
Hey, Mark.
oh hi. But I just like sat there and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, my bar is not already up that high for you. So you just lowered it. And I had no idea. Like, it was already low. Like, I didn't think much of you, but man, you know, let's get someone please take DMT and talk to the coronavirus. And we're like laughing, my friends and I. So now I just said, so what does demon bitch do? He says, one of my friends says, I don't know. Has she taken DMT and talked to the coronavirus today?
I love people.
I feel like you could do something with the coronavirus with Demon Bitch. Has that crossed your mind?
Oh, it certainly has. I was just kind
I
of.
think she should be patient 0.
Well, the thing is that I don't like to jump on the bandwagon at first because I want to like let it marinate for a little bit, even if it takes a day or 2 or maybe a week. And I just want to see how it develops, and then I'll kind of throw shit out there. And one of the ones that I did when it's kind of reached its peak a few days ago, where she's in Japan and she's stowed away and she's trying to model, like, not like a real model, just like a fucking dumb fuck, froggy eyed, like that's me as a model. But anyway, so I love this girl. She's out of her mind.
That's exactly, dude. That was my first response to her when I ended up going on her show. I was like, "Oh shit, she's fucking nuts." I love this woman.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you guys. I don't think you've been on my show, Joel. It's really crazy. I just draw a ton of shit and I shit talk the whole time, and yet people find this brilliant.
and
That
the stupid
sounds
thing is,
amazing.
she shit talks like her own fans and everything, and then they throw money at you, at her. Like, it's hilarious. She's like, seriously, come on the show. We'll definitely get some eyes on Belial. It'll make some money. And I'm like, all right. And we shit talked everybody. And I probably made a good $100 or $150 from the fucking. I was like, holy shit. All right, yeah, I'm coming back for the second one. Sure.
Let me ask you guys a question, and woman, what would you like to identify? I don't want to
Call me a girl or a woman. I don't care. I'm not that hard to. Yeah.
I'm just trying to, it's 2020. I have to watch things. I'm a middle-aged white guy. I have to watch everything I do. I keep in a mirror just to make sure I'm watching my own back.
We blame you.
I identify as a New York Yankees fan, even though I have no interest in baseball.
I'm a Mets fan, so that's the end of Sam being on the show today. No, but do you guys think in about 6 months, all we'll see is like these plague books that come out where people are afraid of a plague? Do you think that's going to influence it? And do you guys want to get together and write a book about looking into what people did during their C-19 vacation and come up with fucked up funny things that people did at home? That would be fun for me.
Oh, I made up quite a few cartoons with Demon Bitch. It's like I've been so prolific. Like, there's this one where Shitbird, the new character, she's like getting stoned and she's talking about her ass the whole time. And they said, so they said, like, so what kind of strain? Because she's got her vape and she's like going, like, because in California, like, we got vapes fucking everywhere because it's like legal. The shit is really legal. So she's smoking it, and they said, so what strain is that? Because you know how they have like purple juice or purple punch or something. My nose is itchy due to allergies. I'm not contagious. That's okay. So they were asking her, like, what strain is it? And she said, oh, it's COVID-19. I don't know what it is, but it kind of makes me feel like short of breath and a high fever and a cough. That's because I'm hot. I'm cute. My ass, because that's all Shitbird is obsessed with. Everybody about her ass and how everybody's a Becky and how it's about her. So based on some people I know, so, and they get stoned all the time and they're these horribly verbally abusive people. And I'm like, I would think weed would fucking chill you the hell out, man. I don't know why you're smoking it so much.
Chris, you need to meet new people.
Huh?
You need to meet new people.
Oh, that person's not in my life anymore. That's why I make fun of them.
No, and I disagree because her book's fucking hilarious. You need to keep hanging out with trash.
Yeah,
woman.
that
Trash.
actually makes sense. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is that okay, so in
Fuck
my
your
creative-
life. Just keep hanging out with these bitches.
while you like break open a beer or some shit. No, but it's funny because it's like there was a period in my life, and I kind of so like to go back and sort of wax sort of semi-spiritual. I actually, like a lot of you have known or you've heard about, but if not, I had a pancreatic tumor taken out of me last year in September, 6 inches. I first was told like, oh, we're worried it might be malignant. I'm like, that's great. And so I kind of went through this transformation of, and I don't want to be like overtly like, oh, it was everything and I saw God. I'm like, no, I had my angry, rough time that, and then also learning how to digest again. That's a whole other thing. That was great either. But now I'm actually more or less back to normal, and having your guts feel like they've been poked around with a golf club. It's redone. Like you guys all know about, I think I've told most of you guys like how it happened. But essentially I'm like kind of like they repiped me, like they took out like fucked up piping and they redid everything. But in a way it was sort of symbolic because it was that part of my life that was gone and expelled. And I had already had a few years like being cathartic because even though I wouldn't have these people in my life anymore, sometimes these assholes would just come into my life. And now it's like ever since the tumor got taken out, it's like, wow, if you're an asshole, you aren't in there very long. Like I don't have anything to do with you. I just ignore you. Like a bit, I guess the asshole like attractant was gone. I know that sounds weird, but it's a lot better now.
No, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was weird because I was just like, that's odd. But anyway, but it was somebody that I used to know. And, but I figured, you know, rather than being pissy about it and being angry and like venting every so often, I just decided to make a funny character. And what I have noticed, what apparently I can do is at the moment that I release a character out there, it's like, oh, I fucking know a bitch like this. Oh, fuck this person. I know this person. So it's not like they know the same person as me, but apparently they met people like them. So they're kind of like a dime a dozen, which is hilarious because people like that also like to say, well, I'm the best. I'm the one. I'm the one. And they brag. And then it's like, nah, you're just the same like any of those other stupid assholes. So yeah. I think that's another why people like it. But no, I mean, I actually have a lot better crowd around me now. Like, and I think because I was so sick, I was attracting like, and I didn't know it because it happened so gradually that I think like just mentally fucked up sick people. And I'm not talking about people with mental conditions, like people that just are fucked up, just terrible people just came to me. Because I think there is a theory, like in a way we never got rid of our animal instincts. So you know how like there's a pack of wolves or target a deer that's sick or ailing or the young one or the vulnerable one. Yeah. I think people sense that too, you know? So it's like when they were, yeah, that's why it's like with victim stuff. I mean, I'm not saying like, oh, if something terrible happened, you just get over it, because I don't think that's as good as somebody, but I'm not into the whole victim thing because that sort of encourages them to get hunted down continuously. And it continues that perpetuation of hurt and cycling. So it's like, while I'm not saying like, oh, something terrible, like my mom used to beat me up all the time. Oh, you should just get over it. No, I'm not that, because usually that's bypassing a lot of pain. But at the same time, it's like because I was in this thing where it's like, I was frustrated. Like, I've been changing my life. I've been working on me. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Why do these assholes keep coming to me? And I think partially because I was sick. They could smell a sick person. And even though I didn't feel that way, it only became really apparent. Like I would get a little, like I actually gained weight. That's what the thing is. Like they were really surprised how I found out, because usually anything with a pancreatic or digestive disorder or possibly cancer, you know, you lose weight. But I would do the opposite. I started gaining weight. And like literally in the August of last year, I was so run down and tired. I thought I had a latent infection, like I was sick, and it never went away. It just hid underneath. So I went to the doctor, and then that's when they did an ultrasound. And then that's when they found the CT scan that I had a 6-inch tumor in my pancreas. So also going through the process of being told you're going to die probably. And then you're going to be diabetic to now you're fine. It's kind of like one of those things where you just kind of don't give a fuck about certain things anymore. It's just like, you know, sometimes now it's like if a person comes up to me, it's not clapping back. It's weird because like I know some people go like, well, I clap back, I have attitude. It's like, you don't need to do that all the time. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm like, whatever, it ain't worth it. But there are times where I've actually like gotten in a person's face, like just something that they say. It's like, it doesn't trigger me like I'm angry, but it just makes me feel like, you know, you don't get to be disrespectful like that to me. And they're like, and then but they leave me alone. It's just like I'm better at kind of detecting like who I should and should not be. I think everybody has this superpower. It's just sometimes we're taught to ignore it, or we don't have enough experience, or we think we're the bad person. We tell them to like leave me alone or give boundaries, you know. So that's why I was kind of like laugh. I just think there was that weird correlation where having a tumor and all these weirdo motherfuckers kept coming into my life. That was why. And also I had some trauma earlier in my life, which I don't want to get into, but the thing is that I think because those wounds you have, you tend to, I usually hit my elbow when I get my funny bone, but it's just like trauma tends to stick with you. And unfortunately with trauma, it's like, you got to find a way to kind of make you feel better or be better, so you're more resilient. But we're not really taught that. We're taught, oh, just talk it out. Well, it's like, okay, great, I can talk about it 10 million times, but what do I do to get rid of it? It's not that I don't want to not remember. It's like, stop having it bring me into the cycle of like BSODing all the time, emotionally and mentally, and even in my social relationships. And, I was getting there, but I think the tumor was really holding me back, because people have noticed to me, like, I actually feel and look lighter. It's not just the weight I've lost or anything, but they notice how healthier I look. And they didn't know the difference beforehand. But when they saw me now, they're like, wow, you look really good. But that's because I was fighting constantly at something that was going to eventually kill me. Because the tumor that I had, it was really weird. It was like, even the doctor called them, because the pathology said it's a growth. He's like, but we're trying to see if it's cancerous or not. So he called them. And I'm not an oncologist, so I can't tell you what differentiates between a tumor and growth and all that. But it was one of those weird ones that it would have grown, and it would have been benign, even though it would continue growing. And then at one point it would break off and then become cancerous. It's I got this, like, they think that I probably started growing this thing like about 10 years ago. So it attacks women of Asian and Black ethnicities. And it's like the 1%. And I said, oh, it's a racist, fucking misogynistic tumor. That's nice. Yeah. So, but it's out of me. The evil's out, but so is my gallbladder. So that's the weirdest feeling either. But I've actually started to feel normal now. But
good work.
Yeah. So it's pretty good. So I don't know. I think there's like definitely a lot of I have a question for you guys. Do you do any work time? Like, I can see Christy may use her life experiences in her work. I used to, but this is a full-time gig for me now. So that's why I'm kind of hustling as hard as I do. That's why I ask for all the behalf on all the creators, including me. Like, if you want to support us, we got electronic rewards if shipping's a bitch. So we really need it. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like, even though I ran a successful Kickstarter and budgeted for it, I'm kind of hurting for money. And I'm sure all you guys are, because, like, I'm not going to speak for you guys, but you guys, I know Sam has an outside job, and I'll let the other guys do that, but it sucks right now,
Yeah, I do have an outside job, and it doesn't really influence too much of my writing, because I do a lot of writing and analytical stuff at work. So when I leave that, I haven't been going recently. So normally when I leave that, it's shut that side off and get creative.
Hello, I wasn't expecting that. Was there a question? Was there a question?
So, there's the question.
Yeah. Do any of you work full-time? No, I work a part-time job. So I always work a part-time job to facilitate doing the comics, and also because that's what I'm meant to do, rather than, I won't go any further with that in case any of my employees are watching. You bring your life experiences to it, but at the end of the day, I've forgotten what the question was.
Do you have a job outside, and how do you find if that job influences it?
my job doesn't influence my comics in any way, and I've been in a number of call center jobs where they're like, "Oh, why don't you write about us?" And it's like, well, it's a call center. That's me. My day job does not impact it's like parallel lives. There's no connection whatsoever. That's it.
All right, Chuck, you're up.
Yeah, as a writer, I feel like everything that I've done affects my writing in some way or another,
Yes,
and that's
a better
kind of
answer, Chuck.
what.
That's a better answer.
So, I'm full-time comics now, but that only happened as of last December. So before that, I was a chef, and I worked in a chemical factory. Insert your joke there. I've done it all, and all of that kind of affects it. It means that I get to see all sorts of different weird ways of life and how that would affect things. So, yeah, man, I think that everything that you do should somehow affect your writing, because when we're writing, we're putting a spotlight on our way of life.
Is there a chemical plant? What the fuck? Are you serious?
No.
I know you shaved your head. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, so I've been stuck in my house now for almost 2 weeks with my kids, and I'm an extrovert. Like you guys, I'm sure you guys know me. I need to get the fuck out and see people, and I went a little nuts. And so, I was just like, I thought in my own head, I need to do something crazy.
Yeah.
I need to just blah. And this is the first time in my life I've ever shaved my head, and I just went, bah. And my hair was down to my shoulders, and I just shaved my head. And that was just me allowing myself one moment of craziness. So then I could just say, there it was. There's the manifestation. Now move the fuck on and be normal again.
Well, Chuck,
or as normal as you can be. Yeah.
Your look reminds me a little bit of Mike from Space. Have you seen Spaced?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
Dude,
yeah.
I'll take that.
Yeah. Are we all familiar with Spaced here?
Well, that's where Nick Frost and Sam Pegg,
Absolutely. That was
Simon Pegg first got together. Yeah.
Absolutely. Christy.
Yes.
Spaced.
Yes, I am familiar with it. I didn't watch it, but I am familiar with it. But
well, that doesn't count. Anyway, Mark, what are you saying?
Still not Mark. Sorry, Mark. We'll get you later. All right, guys, it's that time of the program. I just realized that we went a little bit over, but whatever. It is what it is. Time to say goodbye. We'll go in the order that everyone showed up. So, Sam, you're up first. Tell them where they can find you. Well,
first up, Pyramid Knights, the British guy, too many points. We're in an apocalypse here, so that's all right. GeekGirlComics.com.
The British guy had too many pints.
Too many. Two spelt wrong, but
you've got to be British and correct everybody's English. You've got to.
As far as I'm concerned, we're in the end game here, so there's no such thing as too many pints. I may have had a slight small sherry, but
you're pissed drunk. You're pissed drunk.
Christy.
Yes, that's my name.
I'm not drunk. I'm just, merry.
What the hell?
I'm merry.
Married? Am I married?
I'm married. It's not.
Oh, you're married.
Not drunk. I know what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, GeekGirlComics.com.
All right. So, Joe, no, Chuck was next in. Chuck.
Oh, okay, yeah. Wow, you can find me on Facebook, Chuck, Pineau. You can find me on Twitter at ChuckyPin. You can find me and my great review site, Chuck's Raw Reviews on YouTube. And I would love for you to check out Bonfire Press, Belial Comic, and Essence House, all on Facebook.
All right, Joel, you're up.
All right, and you can find the Dust County Chronicles Nightfall on Kickstarter for the next 4.5 hours. After that, you can find me on MetalNinjaStudios.com or Facebook.com/MetalNinjaStudios.
And Christy, tell them where they can find you.
I'm smelling the books. Hold on. Yeah, go on HorrorTourStudios.com on this bit right here. On shop, you can get personal like commissions and stuff and pins and books right here. I still have plenty left, so I'll sign them and send them to you. They're also available on Amazon and in digital, in both print and digital. I just won't be able to sign the print, but hey, if that's okay. Any of these stickers, they're available for $5. They're also on my website. Yeah, you don't need to worry about getting the virus via mail because it will only last one day, like one day on porous things. So I think you're fine. Secondly, I'll probably take a walk outside. Now people are like, won't you get shot? I'm like, no, usually it's largely quiet and I'll be away from people. I actually sat down and actually read the coronavirus LA feed, and it says, just don't be around people. Like, act like you hate people. So just read that. There you go.
All right, I want to thank everyone for showing up. This has been a
Thank
long
you.
week of panels. Thank you all for being part of Fridays. We'll be back on Monday with more panels. This weekend, we're going to be talking about underground comics, and then we're going to be going over ON-Conns. We're going to be looking at all things ON-Conn. Thank you all for your time today. That's it. Got to go. Got to be a dad. We all got comics to write and things to do. Thank you all for showing up, and be kind to each other and support each other and make each other laugh.
This